Since they had left the van at the office, the two had to call a taxi again. Even after switching to the van, Inseop was restless, aware of Lee Woo-yeon sitting in the back. "Sorry, I couldn't prepare coffee for you." "It's fine. By the way, you're not drunk driving, right?" "I'm sober." The moment Inseop saw the half-naked Lee Woo-yeon, his alcohol buzz disappeared completely. "But there's such a thing as blood alcohol levels. I'll stop by a convenience store and get some medicine if needed." "I was joking." Right now, even Lee Woo-yeon's jokes didn't come across as light-hearted. Worried that he might have made some mistake under the influence of alcohol, Inseop's lips were dry with anxiety. He bit his lips nervously. "What about breakfast?" Normally, Inseop would have prepared something the previous night to suit Lee Woo-yeon's taste, but today he couldn't. "We could stop at a rest area, never mind. A meal truck will come to the set, so we can eat there." Noticing Inseop's shoulders tense at the mention of a rest area, Lee Woo-yeon smoothly changed the subject. "We'll stop at a rest area briefly." "No, we are short on time. Let's just go." Lee Woo-yeon wasn't entirely wrong. They needed to arrive at the set in Gangwon-do before 9 a.m., so time was tight. On set, it was a battle of stamina, so breakfast was more important than on other days. He should have stopped drinking and gone home early, but the bone-deep loneliness and the kindness of others had led him to drink until after midnight. And then waking up at Lee Woo-yeon's place. Inseop was so disgusted with himself that he wanted to bang his head against something. "Ha." Inseop sighed deeply without realizing it, prompting Lee Woo-yeon to look up from his script. "What's wrong? Headache?" "I'm fine. How's your hand?" "It's fine. The wound is almost healed." It was just a razor cut that bled a lot for its size. It didn't affect his driving at all. The only problem was the sweat on his hands from worrying about last night's events. "You seem to have drunk a lot last night." "Yes. It was a birthday punch, so I couldn't avoid it." "Birthday punch?" "Yes." Seeing that he was serious, Lee Woo-yeon corrected him with a laugh. "Birthday punches." "What?" "Not punch, but punches." "Oh, right, birthday punches." Inseop's ears turned bright red as he gripped the steering wheel. Lee Woo-yeon felt an urge to turn Inseop's head around with his hand but resisted acting on it. If I made any mistakes last night, I apologize." Inseop hesitated before speaking. "Mistakes? Ha ha. It wasn't really a mistake." The ambiguous end to Lee Woo-yeon's sentence made Inseop's heart pound. He worried his now healthy heart might have issues. "You were a bit drunk." "Drunk?" He almost slammed on the brakes on the highway. Gathering his composure, he asked calmly. "So you're saying I was drunk?" "Yes." Forget revenge, should he just open the door and jump out? Seeing Inseop's panic, Lee Woo-yeon continued with a smile. "Is Jenny the bad person? Is Jenny the first love you mentioned? The bad person?" "No." Inseop shouted. "Jenny isn't like that. Don't speak about her without knowing her." Lee Woo-yeon hadn't known Inseop long, but he had never imagined him getting this angry. He tightened his grip on the script. "I'm sorry." Lee Woo-yeon apologized first. Realizing his overreaction, Inseop responded more softly. "No, it was my fault for speaking without knowing." By the time Inseop noticed the slight chill in Lee Woo-yeon's voice, he had already gone silent. An awkward silence filled the car. The two didn't speak until they reached the set. As soon as they parked, Lee Woo-yeon got out. Inseop sighed. Usually, Lee Woo-yeon would either read scripts or sleep in the car. It hadn't been long since he started talking to Inseop in the car. "Right, this is normal." His muttering felt bitter. Insiap put the car keys in his pocket and followed Li Wuyan with the necessary items. The staff were already preparing for the shoot. Seeing Li Wuyan greet everyone with a bright smile, Insiap felt relieved. At least he wasn't angry. "Wuyan, come to make up." The makeup team called for Li Wuyan. Insiap quickly followed to receive his clothes. Makeup for historical dramas took much longer than modern ones. Insiap sat quietly by while Li Wuyan closed his eyes during makeup. Only after changing into his costume did Li Wuyan call Insiap. "Here." Li Wuyan handed over his clothes. Insiap neatly folded them into the prepared suitcase. Li Wuyan resumed reading his script. The conversation ended there. The director called Li Wuyan and he left. After a moment's hesitation, Insiap decided to store the outer garments in the van and headed to the parking lot. He carefully placed the clothes in the van, checking twice to ensure it was locked. He had witnessed firsthand how obsessive fans could steal their favorite stars' belongings by sneaking into open cars. Despite the warmer weather, the set in Gangwon-do was still cold. Considering Li Wuyan's waiting time, Insiap filled his pockets with hand warmers, leaving no space for his hands. Insiap blew on his cold fingers as he walked. He didn't notice who was walking toward him. "Hey." He didn't recognize the arrogant voice calling him. "Hey you." Li Wuyan's manager. Startled by the raised voice, Insiap looked up. It was Kenyan Mo. Finished with makeup and walking with his manager, Kenyan Mo gestured at Insiap. He quickly bowed his head and greeted Kenyan Mo. "Come here." Insiap stepped forward and stood in front of him. Kenyan Mo placed his hands on his hips and arrogantly nodded his chin. "When you see someone, you should greet them. What are you doing?" "Huh? I just did." "Greet me properly." Wondering if he might not have seen it, Insiap bowed his head again, greeting him louder than before with a hello. Kenyan Mo hit Insiap's head with the script he was holding. "Can't you even greet properly? Didn't you learn how to greet?" Surprised, Insiap blinked rapidly, trying to grasp the situation. He was sure Kenyan Mo had seen him greet him earlier. The issue wasn't that his greeting was unsatisfactory, it was clear Kenyan Mo had a problem with him, or more accurately, with Li Wuyan's manager. "Greet properly." Insiap bowed even deeper and greeted him politely, "Hello." But once again, Kenyan Mo's script hit his head. "Hey you punk. Who taught you to greet like that on set? Your parents? Your boss? Or the actor you're managing? You should bow until your chest touches your knees." Tears of frustration and resentment welled up in Insiap's eyes. Seeing him struggling under Kenyan Mo's abuse, no one stepped in to help. Everyone knew Kenyan Mo's temper and didn't want to create trouble by intervening. "I'm sorry." Even though he had done nothing wrong, Insiap apologized. He didn't want to create any problems either. If he had a conflict with Kenyan Mo, it would also affect Li Wuyan, and he wanted to avoid that at all costs. But once again, the rolled-up script hit his head. "You should greet properly from the start. Do you think you're someone important just because you manage Li Wuyan?" Since he couldn't confront Li Wuyan directly, Kenyan Mo was taking it out on his manager. Knowing that the reasons for Kenyan Mo's harassment were absurd didn't make it any easier for Insiap to say anything. "Are you really sorry?" "Yes." "If you're sorry, go and buy me a plate of sashimi." "What?" "Go buy me a plate of sashimi." It was an unreasonable demand. To get sashimi, he would have to drive out for a while, and Insiap couldn't leave his post for that long. Regardless of Kenyan Mo's demands, Insiap's duty as Li Wuyan's manager was to stay by his side. "I'm sorry. I can't leave my post right now." "So, you're just saying sorry with no intention of acting on it?" Kenyan Mo poked Insiap's forehead with the edge of the script. As Insiap struggled with the humiliation, he saw Li Wuyan walking toward them with the director. Their eyes met. "What are you looking at?" Why are you looking elsewhere when I'm talking to you? Inseop quickly bowed his head. What? Is Lee Woo-Yun back there? Are you going to tattle on me? Kenyan Mo pretended to look over his shoulder with a laugh. Inseop shook his head. Do it. Go tattle like last time. Why? Can't do it. The edge of the script pressing against his forehead started to hurt more. Inseop bit his lip, trying to hold back his tears. Don't cry. Don't cry here, where everyone can see. Don't cry unprofessionally. But I want to cry. Senior, here you are. A gentle voice softly called out to Kenyan Mo. What? Kenyan Mo turned with an annoyed expression. The director is calling for you. Reluctantly, Kenyan Mo tucked the script under his arm and walked away. Inseop couldn't lift his head. If he made eye contact with Lee Woo-Yun now, he might break down completely. Lee Woo-Yun. A staff member called out to him from afar. Lee Woo-Yun turned and walked toward the director. Only after Lee Woo-Yun had walked far enough away did Inseop's vision blur with tears. The tears that had pooled in his eyes began to drip onto his shoes. He hadn't expected Lee Woo-Yun to confront Kenyan Mo for him. Lee Woo-Yun wasn't the type to risk his image for anyone. He hadn't wanted that in the first place. But he could have at least asked if I was okay, even just as a pretense. He's good at pretending to be kind in front of others. What am I expecting? Inseop muttered as he wiped away his tears with his palm. He felt stupid for expecting anything. Did he have no capacity to learn? Why was he like this again? He needed to pull himself together. He couldn't let his emotions get the better of him. Inseop slapped his cheeks to give himself a wake-up call. Ouch, that must hurt. Startled by the voice right beside him, Inseop turned his head. Here. A woman dressed in traditional attire handed him a handkerchief from her waist. Seeing her warm, ample face, Inseop was reminded of Jenny, and tears welled up in his eyes again. Why are you crying? A grown man like you. I'm sorry. Taking the handkerchief, Inseop quickly wiped his eyes. He had lost count of how many times he had apologized today. He felt ashamed. Today, he realized that he hadn't grown at all from the skinny boy who cried when Fred's gang bullied him. He felt miserable. Everyone has bad days. This industry is tough. If you can't handle it, leave. There's a saying for a reason. She seemed to think Inseop was an extra or an unknown actor. Go sit over there for a bit. A little fresh air will help. She gently tugged at Inseop's sleeve, leading him to a bench at the back of the set. As he sat down, Inseop thanked her. It's nothing. I saw Kenyan Mo giving you a hard time earlier. Stay away from him if you can. He has a bad reputation. Yes. I understand. He picks fights with everyone. He's fought with staff and actors alike. Just because he acts well, does he think he's all that? His personality is rotten to the core. They should give actors personality tests before hiring them. I bet many would fail. Inseop smiled faintly at her lively chatter. You look better when you smile. I'm Lee Woo-Yun. And you? I'm Choi Inseop. First time on set. Haven't got a role yet. Inseop hesitated before replying. I'm not an actor. Staff. No, I'm a manager. What? Really? You look so young. Being told he looked young was something he was used to hearing in America. Westerners often had trouble guessing the age of East Asians, so he hadn't minded. But hearing it in Korea felt different. How old are you? 26. Wow. I thought you just graduated high school. He was actually 24. By Korean standards, he was 25 and at the age when he should have completed his military service. With a bitter smile, Inseop nodded and agreed with her. Whose manager are you? Choyun Byul. Yoon Isuk. Ko Yoon Ji. Every time Inseop shook his head when the names of other actors in the project were mentioned, Lee Eun-young's curiosity grew. Could it be Kenyan Mo? No. Then who? Who else is there? She tilted her head, then widened her eyes in realization. You're Lee Woo-yeon's manager. When Inseop confirmed it, she became even more excited. Really? Really? You're really Lee Woo-yeon's manager? Yes. Wow. That's amazing. So you see his face every day, talk to him, and even eat together sometimes? Yes. We eat together occasionally. That's so cool. I'm so jealous. How is he? Is he as polite and kind as he seems? After hesitating for a moment, Inseop answered, yes. I saw him from afar earlier, and he was really handsome. He must look even better up close, right? Inseop smiled awkwardly. He didn't feel the need to refute her comment about Lee Woo-yeon's looks. Are you too close? Could you help me get a picture with him someday? I'm sorry, but that might be difficult. Oh, I see. He probably doesn't like that kind of thing. It's not that I'm just not close with him. Inseop lowered his head. Even now, they weren't close, and he didn't intend to get closer in the future. His only goal was to find Lee Woo-yeon's weakness and return to the US as soon as possible. That was the only thing he should be thinking about, but other thoughts kept complicating his mind. Have you not been working long? No. Then you'll get closer over time. Why look so down? Interpreting his forlorn expression differently, Lee Eun-young patted his shoulder and smiled brightly. Her generous laughter made Inseop unconsciously murmur his true feelings. I won't get closer. Sorry. I won't get closer probably. Come on. That's not how things work. You'll get closer over time. Don't worry. It's just the start of your job. Look at me. I want to be a leading actress in Korea, but I'm always playing the tavern lady. Still, I live thinking I'll get better roles someday. She was a very cheerful person. Being around her made him feel her positivity was infectious. Inseop thanked her quietly. Stay strong. There are strange bosses like him in every company. When I worked at an insurance company, there was a manager just like Kenyan Mo, and he was so annoying. When I told him I was taking acting classes, he mocked me, saying I should just lose weight and look in the mirror. Why? You're pretty. You know how to flatter people, Inseop. That's how you do it. It's not flattery. All women are naturally beautiful. Oh my, oh my. You don't look like it, but you've got a bit of a Casanova streak in you. No, that's not what I meant. I mean it. Ha ha ha. Okay, okay. You're really cute, Inseop. You can't even tell when you're being teased. Lee Eun-young's words were cut short as she suddenly looked shocked. Inseop turned his head to see what had startled her. There you are. I've been looking for you. Inseop quickly stood up. Lee Woo-yeon, holding a script and smiling, was standing there with his arms crossed. Inseop, you have the car keys, right? Yes? Oh, yes. I have them. As Inseop fumbled through his pockets, Lee Woo-yeon raised a hand to stop him. Let's talk while we walk. Lee Woo-yeon nodded politely to Lee Eun-young, who was still looking surprised, and grabbed Inseop's arm. Inseop flinched and pulled his arm away. No one noticed the chill in Lee Woo-yeon's eyes as he smiled. Sorry. I forgot your hand might still hurt. I wasn't thinking. Lee Woo-yeon preemptively provided a reason for Inseop pulling away. It's fine. Unable to lie convincingly, Inseop looked away, rubbing the arm that had been grabbed with his other hand. Watching his manager, who wouldn't even make eye contact, irritated Wu Yan. This pathetic guy is getting above himself because I've been nice to him. As they walked, Li Wuyan greeted everyone they passed with a cheerful demeanor, while Inseop awkwardly followed, returning the greetings. The silence between them was heavy. More awkward than before. I hate this, I want to go home. About earlier, Li Wuyan started. His eyes crinkled in a smile as he looked at Inseop, who replied awkwardly. It's okay. I'll handle it as part of the job. You don't have to worry about me. It doesn't bother me. After saying that, Inseop bit his tongue. No, I shouldn't have said that last part. It's like I'm begging for attention. What are you talking about? I was going to ask about that woman. That woman? You mean Eun-young? Yeah, the one you were talking to. Did you make a new friend? Eun-young, no, she's not a friend, Just. We just talked, she seems like a nice person. Even as he answered, Inseop felt strangely like he was being interrogated. You said you didn't need friends. When he heard Li Wuyan mumble in a low voice, Inseop asked, sorry, what? Nothing. So, did you become friends with her? We just met today, so I don't know. But you could become friends. But you said you wouldn't get close to me. Inseop hadn't realized Li Wuyan had heard that. His face turned pale. Why not? Why not get close? I'm your manager. Well, I'm not very good at my job yet, so. You're doing well, Inseop. Li Wuyan slowly closed his eyes and opened them again. His slightly squinting eyes from the bright sunlight were clearly etched into Inseop's memory. You're the best manager I've had so far. No mistakes. Inseop nodded at the compliment, unsure whether to feel happy or sad. And what does job performance have to do with getting close? Doesn't it? Yes. Besides, you're my lifesaver. Yes. So let's be friendly from now on. Those words made Inseop's expression twist with complexity. Li Wuyan was smiling, but he wasn't pleased. The manager's inability to agree readily to even a casual suggestion like, let's eat together sometime, irked him. Do you hate me? Li Wuyan asked. Startled as if stabbed in the spine, Inseop hastily denied it, no. Ha ha. Oh no. How could you hate me? You saved my life. Inseop was increasingly uncomfortable with the conversation. He regretted not just handing over the car keys earlier. By the way, what did you mean by not worrying? What? It's nothing. Inseop thought Li Wuyan was referring to his encounter with Kenyan Mo. He remembered locking eyes with Li Wuyan from a distance while being hit with the script. They definitely saw each other. Did something happen? No, nothing happened. There was no need to escalate the situation unnecessarily, especially since Li Wuyan didn't seem like the type to make a big deal out of it. When they reached the parked car, Li Wuyan held out his hand. Inseop silently handed over the keys from his pocket. Li Wuyan retrieved a pen from the back seat. Found it. Anything else you need? No, I need this pen to highlight my lines. It helps me memorize them better. Though it seemed doubtful, given Li Wuyan's usual ability to memorize lines just by glancing at them, Inseop didn't question it. He locked the car door and double-checked it. Why do you check it twice? Double-checking. Just in case. Li Wuyan's gaze deepened momentarily as he looked down at Inseop. Your pronunciation is good. Sorry. Your English pronunciation. It seems better than your Korean. No, that's not true. My Korean pronunciation is much better. Inseop shook his head emphatically, his hands flapping like wings. Li Wuyan laughed. I was complimenting your English. Don't you like compliments? Thank you. Cold sweat trickled down his back. Another mistake. While communication wasn't an issue, understanding jokes or hidden meanings was challenging for Insiep. He decided he would only speak when necessary and keep his responses short around Li Wuyan. If you get cold waiting, you can stay in the car. No, thank you. It'll be tough. Standby for historical dramas can be long. Yes. A staff member spotted Li Wuyan and signaled for him. Li Wuyan handed his coat to Insiep before walking away briskly. It's going to be a long day. Before the echo of his words faded, Li Wuyan had already walked off. Insiep stood silently, watching his retreating figure. Cut. At the director's command, Li Wuyan and Kenyan Mo, who had been sharing an intimate scene, turned away from each other. Take 5 and then we'll shoot the letter-reading scene. Kenyan Mo gestured affirmatively and stood up. His manager hurried over with a blanket and clothes and he yelled for warm water. Leaning against a pillar, Insiep rushed to Li Wuyan's side. Good job. There were only 2 more scenes to shoot, but no one could guarantee how long they would take. Insiep draped Li Wuyan's coat over his shoulders. Go rest in the car. I'm fine. It'll take another couple of hours. Hearing that it would take a few more hours past midnight, Insiep wanted to cry. Outwardly, he remained calm, replying that he was fine, but all he wanted was to go home and lie down. A hot shower and a touch from Kate before sleeping would be nice. I should call Mom today, too. At least it'll be daytime in the US when I get home to call. You don't look fine. Li Wuyan smiled, reaching into his pocket. Feeling a warm object, he glanced at Insiep. Hand warmers? Yes. That's why the coat was warm. Even during breaks, Li Wuyan was so engrossed in reading his script that he hadn't noticed what was in his pockets. Thank you. It's nothing. I think you're the only one who thinks about me like this. It was true. From the moment he opened his eyes until he closed them, Insiep thought about Li Wuyan. He planned his day around Wuyan's schedule, waiting for an opportunity to find his fatal flaw. He only thought of Li Wuyan. Then why are your hands empty? Li Wuyan pointed to Insiep's red, frozen fingertips. I ran out of hand warmers. Insiep was more sensitive to temperature changes than most. The extended shooting time had used up all the hand warmers he brought. He couldn't put his hands in his pockets while holding Wuyan's clothes, nor did he want to put his hands in Wuyan's coat pockets. As a result, Insiep's hands were freezing. Li Wuyan pulled Insiep's hand out of his pocket. Warm your hands. Li Wuyan took Insiep's hand and put it in his own coat pocket. When Insiep tried to pull away, Wuyan tightened his grip. The grip was so strong that Insiep was on the verge of crying out. The warmth from hand to hand was comforting, but the overwhelming strength made it unclear if this was kindness or malice. Stay still. Your hands are frozen. It's fine. Even though he knew Insiep was flustered, Wuyan ignored it, looking away. Female staff passing by joked with Wuyan. Your manager is lucky, Wuyan. I want to be Wuyan's manager too. It was rare for staff to talk and joke so freely with a lead actor, reflecting Li Wuyan's friendly image. However, to Insiep, that kindness felt like poison. My hands are warm now. They are still cold. I'm fine. Really? Kenyan Mo, passing by with coffee, frowned at the scene. What the hell is this? What do you mean, senior? Are you two together or something? Is that why your manager was so cocky with me? Just today, Kenyan Mo had made Insiep fetch warm water 3 times. Insiep had dutifully complied, even though Kenyan Mo's own manager was right there. Every time, Kenyan Mo had complained about the temperature and spilled the water Insiep brought. Insiep wondered how any of his actions could be seen as cocky. Li Wuyan showed no reaction to Kenyan Mo's words, which only fueled his anger. I didn't know Li Wuyan liked men too. I knew he was crazy about women. Ha 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 ha. Li Wuyan laughed loudly. Inseop felt anxious. He feared Li Wuyan might reveal his true nature and beat up Kenyan Mo, which would fulfill Jenny's wish without needing Inseop to uncover any secrets. Shaking with laughter, Li Wuyan suddenly approached Kenyan Mo, causing him to step back in surprise. Li Wuyan stood in front of Kenyan Mo with a cold expression. The staff members around them froze, watching in surprise. The sudden change in demeanor from Li Wuyan, who was usually all smiles, left everyone bewildered. Would you like me to hold your hand, senior? But what came out of Li Wuyan's mouth was completely unexpected. What did you say? I can hold your hand too if you're cold. Li Wuyan grabbed Kenyan Mo's hand. Kenyan Mo, flustered, yelled, "Enough," and pulled his hand back, stomping off angrily. Li Wuyan chuckled as he watched him go. Taking advantage of the distraction, Inseop quickly removed his hand from Wuyan's pocket. I need to use the restroom. Mumbling hastily, Inseop dashed away. The warmth from Wuyan's grip still tingled on his hand. He wanted to wash it off, to cleanse the feeling away with water. Inseop turned on the cold water in the restroom and washed his hands. The still healing cut stung, but he didn't care. He needed to get rid of that warmth. The briefly warmed fingertips turned cold again. His hands went numb. The only sound in the empty restroom was the running water. In the mirror, Inseop habitually brought his fingertips to his face. The blood flowed back to the previously frozen fingers. The cold that had threatened to freeze his heart and the ticklish warmth that made his cells dance mixed together, making it hard to distinguish between them. Stupid. He couldn't stand himself for being shaken by something so insignificant. He thought those feelings had died, that he had buried them with Jenny. He lifted his head. His eyes, wet with tears, were red. Peter, not Inseop, was staring back at him in the mirror. Peter, we're late. Hurry up. Okay, just a minute. Peter descended the stairs slowly, his father urging him to hurry. We'll be late. If we leave now, we'll barely make it on time. Can't we skip it? No. His father usually indulged his whims, but this time it was clear he wouldn't budge. Peter reluctantly got into the car. Today was the monthly Korean Student Association meeting. Peter, adopted by an American family at the age of 1, didn't feel any particular patriotism towards Korea. However, his father, a third-generation Korean American, believed it was important for Peter to understand his roots, even giving him a Korean name. His father's belief was that by interacting with other Korean students, Peter would gain a better understanding of his birth country. Peter didn't particularly agree. Peter couldn't feel a sense of belonging at the meetings. He only attended because his father insisted, spending the time reading a book or daydreaming. No one there paid him any attention. After deciding the meetings were a waste of time, Peter stopped attending for 4 months. Upon hearing this from the association, his father decided to personally take him to the meeting today. Call me when it ends. I'll come to pick you up. I can find my own way home. Planning to go somewhere else. Even though his father knew the most Peter would do was read in the library or on a park bench, he firmly shook his head. No. Today I'll wait here until it ends, so call me. Got it? Yes. Peter answered weakly and entered the building. The kids who had already arrived were chatting away. No one noticed him or greeted him. Peter found a secluded seat and started reading the book he brought. Today's session included a class and discussion on Korean literature. While socializing was uncomfortable, he didn't mind the literature class itself. His father, who supported his love for reading, ordered Korean novels for him. The book he was reading now was one of those gifts. But that was the extent of it. Peter loved books, but he didn't look for anything beyond that. He flipped through the pages, praying for time to pass quickly so the session would end. That's when it happened. A sudden silence fell over the room, like someone had poured cold water over everyone. When Peter looked up, he heard a gentle voice above him. "Is this seat taken?" No." The boy sat next to Peter. The girls in the auditorium whispered and stared at him. Peter could tell what their gazes meant. Admiration, longing, and awe. Peter realized today that Jenny's prince was Korean. It seemed everyone else in the room was learning this for the first time as well. The prince sat quietly, ignoring the gazes, waiting for the class to start. When the teacher entered and asked everyone to take their seats, the entire auditorium's attention was on the boy sitting next to Peter. The class was conducted in Korean. Peter, distracted by Jenny's prince beside him, didn't hear a word from the teacher. Noticing Peter's glances, the boy gave him a friendly nod. Peter quickly looked away, feeling guilty for making eye contact with Jenny's prince without her permission. "Who wants to read the poem we're learning today?" The teacher's gaze swept across the auditorium. It was clear where her gaze landed. "Yes, you're new here. Your name is Philip Levin." Someone else whispered his name before he could respond. Philip Levin. As the quarterback for the W.T. Upson football team, his name was well known in the area. "Philip, would you like to come up and read?" Even though he wasn't the one called, Peter's heart pounded so hard he could barely lift his head. Philip stood up slowly and walked to the front of the room. Only then did Peter slowly lift his head. "Do you have a Korean name?" "Yes." With a soft smile, the boy continued. "My name is Lee Woo-Yan. Please take care of me." For the first time, Peter realized how beautiful the Korean language could sound. And he was amazed by Lee Woo-Yan's almost perfect Korean pronunciation. "Would you read this poem?" The teacher handed him a book. The boy gracefully held the book and began to read the poem. "Kim Namjo. For you." A solemn silence filled the auditorium. "My night prayers are long," repeating the same words. "Opening my eyes quietly is an incredible blessing." The words were beautiful. The boy's voice turned the words into poetry. Peter was mesmerized as he watched the boy read. "My beloved person, filled entirely with the light of just blossomed brightness. Lying down with black hair flowing, unable to possess generous love. Sunlight poured through the high windows, touching the boy's hair." As his gentle voice resonated through the room, Peter's breath caught in his throat. The boy's voice echoed softly in the auditorium. It scattered in the air, forming delicate images as it met the air. "I will live for you and give you all that is precious. I will forget what I have already given and remember only the love I couldn't give. My beloved person. I see you in the distant sky where snow falls, like seeing a halo around the moon." No one could take their eyes off the boy reading with lowered eyes. He had captured everyone's attention in the auditorium. Peter couldn't look away either. "For you, all things have names and joy. My beloved person." The boy raised his head. The female students who had been listening intently gave him admiring looks. He returned the book to the teacher. The teacher praised his perfect pronunciation and began to explain the meaning of the poem to the students. The boy returned to his seat. The girls sitting near him turned and gave him obvious looks. The boy, resting his chin on his hand, seemed focused on the teacher's explanation. Peter should have taken notes on all this, as usual, but he couldn't. All he did was reread the same page in his book. Not a single word registered in his mind. When he finally came to his senses, he realized he had written the same words repeatedly in his notebook. My beloved person. My beloved person. My beloved person. The last line of the poem the boy had read. As soon as the class ended, Peter tore the page from his notebook and threw it in the trash. It was the first secret he had kept from Jenny on a Sunday afternoon.